Let's move to a wild weekend now in college women's basketball. Unbeaten South Carolina beat Tennessee at the buzzer of Saturday's SEC tournament semifinal, then beat LSU yesterday in a game that featured that scuffle and a slew of ejections. Over in the Pac-12, USC beat favorite Stanford for the tournament championship, and Caitlin Clark's Iowa team needed OT to beat Nebraska for the Big Ten title. Tony, which result was most significant to you?
So I want to draw a line of distinction here because, as you know, I watched all three of these games. But I want to draw a line of distinction between what was most significant to me and what the headline was. The headline was the brawl, with 2 minutes to go in South Carolina and LSU. I don't know that that result was the most significant because South Carolina is the number one team in the country. They were expected to win, and they won that game. If I have to deal with most significant, I would say Iowa, coming back from 13 down against Nebraska and winning that game, because Caitlin Clark did nothing in the first half. She had 4 points, and she was 0 for 9 from 3. She had 30 in the second half and the overtime. 30, and I think I'm correct in this, either scored or assisted on every basket in the overtime. That's going to get Iowa to a number one seeding because Ohio State, which I believe had won the Big Ten, lost 2 games in a row. USC is so closely behind Iowa in my mind in terms of significance because they upset Stanford. They're going to get a number one seeding as well, and they did it even though Juju Watkins had no game. She had 2 baskets and 6 turnovers, I believe.
Stanford
and at times, Stanford put 4 people on her. They put 4 people on her. So, but the big headline, and I'll leave some of it to you, the big headline was the fight at the end of that game.
The big headline and the most entertaining game, the greatest theater, was South Carolina LSU, as it should be. You got a reigning national champion and a champion once or twice removed. You got, come on now, that's the game. And Caitlin Clark is great because she's always great. You and I were on the phone. I loved watching that, and the Big Ten games I've watched all year with Caitlin Clark. And Tony, to be fair now, Stanford and USC should be number one seeds. They're both going to be number one seeds. So there was no upset there. Those are equals. Those are equals. There's no telling what would happen if they played each other in a semifinal or final in the national championship. But South Carolina LSU was a game. And as Dawn Staley said accurately, these passions run deep. And they can spill over. You don't want them spilling over to where somebody's brother is jumping over the top rail like WWE on the court and taking away handcuffs. You don't want that. But I thought Dawn Staley was great where she just basically said in live time, okay, I'm sorry this happened. I hate to see that happen. These two teams are rivals, though, Tony. I want to see them again. Whether it's the national semifinal or an NCAA final championship game, sorry, Caitlin Clark, Mr. Big Ten here, I want to see South Carolina LSU go at it once more. That was the show.
There's a
Men's
famous
college
phrase
basketball
of our
can't
childhood.
touch that now. Can't touch it.
There's a famous phrase in our childhood, and it ended with plain don't like each other. And that's
right.
LSU and South Carolina.
That's it.
And you have to sit that player out for one game. Because she decked the player from LSU.
That's right.
She's got to sit out one year.
My takeaway is these teams just do not like each other. The melee was the melee. The referees, I wish, could have calmed it down a little bit before. But there's just two teams that did not like each other. It did not exceed to a level of nasty violence. It was just two teams that do not like each other. And I, for one, am excited for a rematch.
Tim Kalishaw?
Yeah, I'll say this. I disagree with David. Kim Mulkey's an acquired taste. The taste comes with a lot of championships, but you have to. She is going to talk on the edge the way her team plays on the edge. But Dawn Staley's the one who has the player that's facing a suspension. Mostly, what I take out of it is I hope they're put in the same bracket so they can meet in an Elite Eight game and we see a rematch.
Remember, we like to call it the Big Eight. George Sedano, how about you?
Tony, I'm going to agree with our esteemed columnist, Tim Kalishaw there. Kim Mulkey literally started that conversation by saying she wished that wouldn't have transpired, but then wishing that someone would have then provoked Angel Reese in the same sentence. So made no sense to me that what she was doing. I'm also not buying that this is good for the sport. I guess it brings them into the zeitgeist because more people will see that there was a melee at a women's basketball game. But the women's basketball game has elevated because it's the purest form of the game. And we're not talking about South Carolina being only the third team to go back-to-back undefeated seasons.
Well, here we go. Here's your chance to talk about South Carolina as well. We could have it both ways, George. Please, go ahead.
Well, I'm alluding to that. Look, they are in rare company now. Only UConn and Vermont have done what they've done going back-to-back undefeated seasons, right? They've won their 8th SEC championship in 10 years. Only Tennessee has more. So to me, that should be part of the conversation.
And it is. Thank you very much,
would have been
George.
had this not happened.
Kevin Clark, take away.
Yeah, I'm selling Kim Mulkey's comments. I've never seen a coach after a game with time to think about it say, "I wish we had a different fight." Not that, obviously she said she didn't want the fight to happen, but then she said, "Well, it would have been a little bit different if we had that." On the court, South Carolina is just better. I think LSU is hoping, Tim, that they are not in the same bracket and somebody else knocks them out because we have a sample size here.
Now, one last question on South Carolina. They got pushed to the limit game before, and it was Cardozo with the great shot. One of the great shots that gets lost this weekend now because of everything happened that after. They're going into the tournament. They should feel as good as they felt all season long, going undefeated.